Do you want to learn how to create art in a way that's fun and easy and great for beginners? If so, then you're in the right place. If we haven't met yet, I'm Rashonda, and I'm the creator of this YouTube channel, as well as the artbyro.com website, where you can find an additional 250 art and drawing tutorials. Today, we're going to have us some fun drawing a shamrock just in time for St. Patrick's Day. We're going to use markers, guidelines, and make it really fun and easy. So let's go on over to the art studio and get started on today's lesson.
Okay, today we're going to be drawing a shamrock since St. Patrick's Day is coming up pretty soon. And these are really fun, super easy, great for beginners. Normally I like to do my drawings on an artist trading card, but I'm going to do it a little bit bigger today because the shamrocks need a little bit of room. Now you could probably do them on an artist trading card. They would make, I think, for some pretty interesting artist trading cards. You could do something cool with them, but I'm not going to be doing that today. Hopefully you can see that. Maybe I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see that. Okay, so we're going to start with our guidelines. This is the easiest way to start your drawing, is with some guidelines. And what we're going to do is we're just going to draw 3 hearts using these lines as the center point for the hearts. And I'm drawing kind of a little bit darker because I want you to be able to see it. But you want to make sure you're sketching kind of lightly because you might have to kind of tweak these a little bit at the end. So we're just going to do the same thing on the 3 sides. Now I'm just doing just a standard 3-leaf shamrock. If you wanted to do a 4-leaf clover, you could do the same thing and just make another one at the bottom. This on the bottom is going to be for our stem. So then the stem is going to come down. I like to curve it a little bit. And I like to make it thinner at the top and then a little bit wider at the bottom. And kind of curve it a little bit. You can draw where you could see like the little bottom end part of it. And then you can just look at the overall shape. So when we do this, we're going to keep these center lines, but we're going to make them a little bit shorter. And you can look at this overall shape and see if there's anything in here you want to change before we go on to the next step. So maybe I might want to bring this out a little bit wider up here. And then this part would get erased. Same thing here. Maybe that looks a little too thin up there. Just kind of look at it and see how you feel. If you think it needs to be adjusted at all, or if it looks pretty good. I think that looks pretty good. So now the next step, because we're going to color this, I want to use my markers or my outlining pen. I'm going to use markers, but I'm going to do an outlining pen first. And I'm using these Ohuhu outlining pens, which I love. So if you can see right here on the picture, it comes with 8 different nibs, a brush point, and then a thin, thicker, and then a wider one. So I like that they're all included in one set. And I think I paid like $11 for that whole set. And I love them. They're really nice. So far, they've not smudged when I use my markers with them, which is important. So now we are just going to go right over top of our pencil lines all the way down. Now, when you do your outlining, you can make some lines thick, some lines thin. You can make them all thick. You can make them all thin. That's up to you. That's going to depend on what style you like. I typically like to have nice bold outlines on my drawings, but I'm not going to worry about that too much today. And then we're just going to draw that right up there like that. Now, like I said, you can make these a little bit thicker if you want. And then the next thing we want to do is right from this center point, we want to do the line going through the middle of each leaf. And you can kind of flick it when you get to the end, and it'll make it a little bit thinner. So it's thicker at the beginning and a little bit thinner at the end. You could also use one of the different, if you have a set like I'm using 0.5, there's a bunch of different ones in there. You can use that to make your lines thick and thin. Use different nibs, or you can go back over it with the same pen. You don't have to have different pens. You can just have one. And of course, any brand of outlining pen will do the job. And if you're interested in any of the supplies that you see me using today, you can find links in the description box, along with some other information. I'll throw the freebie in there for the artist trading cards, because that is one of my most popular freebies. And I love doing artist trading cards, and I think they're great. So I will put that in there, even though we're not doing an artist trading card today. So now we need to do our markers. And I'm going to be using also Ohuhu markers. These are the Honolulu Bee, and they have a brush tip on one end and a fine tip on the other. So I have 3 different green markers. I have a light, medium, and a dark. And I am going to start with my lightest color. And what we're going to do is fill in, I want to put this. So one cool thing about the Ohuhu markers, they come with these protective sheets that you can put between your pages so they don't bleed through. So I'm going to do that because I'm just using some heavy duty printer paper that I have. And I'm just going to go ahead and fill everything in with this lighter green, and then we'll put the darker ones over top. We're just going to fill that in. And we want to kind of trace the outline on the inside. Go right up to the edge to where our outline's at. And then we just want to fill this in, and we can overlap a little bit. So if you're new to the markers, as you layer them up and do additional layers, they'll darken a little bit. So we're going to do the same thing here. So what I'm going to do is half and just use that center line that we did as my cutoff. And then flip it around. No, actually I got to do this first. Go right up to the edge. Flip it, go around to the other edge. And then we're just going to go back and forth and overlap it a little bit. And then we're going to do the same thing with the last one. Make sure you turn your paper to make it so you're not at an awkward angle. You don't want to be twisting your hand and your wrist all weird. And you can go back over it if it's too streaky. Go back over it and smooth it out. I keep wanting to flip it before I get my next part in. Think I'd learned the first time I did it. All right. So we're going to do that. Back and forth, overlapping. Okay. So now we can use our darker markers. So what I did was I tried out the markers here so I could see what they look like. In these two, the ends don't look too different. So I want to make sure I'm using the right ones. And the lower number is actually darker than the lighter number. So you want to make sure you're using the right ones. So now what we want to do is add a little bit of darker green. And you can do this with 2 markers. You can do it with 3. And we just want to just add a little bit of this little bit darker, just to give it some depth. I think it makes it look a bit more interesting. And I'm doing it in the middle and then up the edges, as you can see. And then we take the light color and do similar strokes, these little feathered strokes, where the two come together. And that will blend them in very nicely. And then we can use our darkest green, or you could stop there. That would be fine. You could do just the 2. We could do the darker green and do something similar, but don't go out as far. Just do it smaller, kind of the same shape, same type of a method with it. Just don't go out as far. And then again, use that, your lighter markers. And then we can use that lightest one again. Now, if you don't like where this layer of the lighter marker stops, you can go all the way up if you want. But if you don't, then you'll have this part where we didn't go over it again is going to be even lighter. And then for the stem, we can do the same type of a thing down here. Where we can add a little bit of the darker color, maybe something down here a little bit. And then again, with the lighter marker, just to blend that all in. Now I'm going to do the other ones, but I'm going to speed this up real quick. And I'll be back when I have that finished to show you the final step. All right, so now I want to do some little highlights on there. And I'm going to do mine with a jelly roll pen, a white jelly roll pen. You can do it with acrylic markers. I don't have any right now, so we're going to do the jelly roll, but I'm going to let this dry a little bit. Let that alcohol evaporate. And I want to show you real quick while we're waiting for that is another option that you can do with the Shamrock. So before we made a cross, straight across. So what you can do instead is make a dot and then make these lines curved. And then do the same process where I'm going to do this real fast because I'm not going to do the whole thing. Do this whole, that the same way you did it before, and then your stem coming down. And then instead of it being just a straight shamrock, you can have a nice little curved shamrock, and it would look like this. So instead of doing your guidelines straight across, just curve them. And I found it easiest to just make a dot and then make the lines coming out from there. But I think that's kind of fun, a little bit different. It's interesting. But I just wanted to show you that real quick, but we're not going to do that whole drawing today. So now, just to finish it up, I like to add some white for a little bit of contrast. So we're going to do just a little bit of white on the edges here. Make sure I'm in the camera. It's so hard to draw and keep an eye on that camera, I tell you what. Just a little bit of white, just to show a little reflection, some highlights. Could do some on the stem. And you could do more. You could do both sides if you want. You can make them bigger. Fill them in a little bit more. It's up to you. You should make your artwork your own. Do things the way that you like them. But that's it for today's tutorial. I sure hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you feel inspired to do some of your own artwork. And I will see you next time. Happy creating!
That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully you feel inspired to create some of your own artwork. If you did enjoy the video, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And also, you can subscribe if you want to get notified of future videos. And don't forget to check out that description box. There's some information in there. There's some freebies, as well as the links to all those art supplies that I talked about earlier. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!